When I grew up and met him again, I was pulled in front of him. "This is Nhu Nhu. Do you still remember her?" Quý Linh curved his lips, his tone carrying a trace of mockery. "My wife. How could I not remember?" My face instantly flushed with embarrassment. I never expected that he would still remember the words Aunt Chu had drilled into him when he was young. Back then, my mother loved to take me to Aunt Chu's house. Then she would leave me with Quý Linh while she and Aunt Chu went out for facials or manicures. Because my father and Uncle Quý had been best friends since school, there was always a deep bond between the families. I once heard that Uncle Quý had a conflict with a boy from the next class, and my father had stepped in to help. The result? Both were summoned to the principal's office and forced to write self-reflection letters. From then on, they swore brotherhood, their friendship strong and unshakable. That's how friendships between boys are. Sometimes so simple. After graduation, they even started a business together. When Uncle Quý got married, my father served as his groomsman. My father married later and always regretted that Uncle Quý couldn't stand by him as best man. Because of this friendship, my mother and Aunt Chu became as close as sisters. They even agreed that if they both had sons, then in the future my father's son would marry first to make up for his regret. That was the first time I understood the saying, "The father owes, the child repays." But fate did not cooperate. When Quý Linh was born, my mother still hadn't conceived. Not until Quý Linh was already 3 years old did I finally come into the world. The best man plan had completely fallen apart. My father still didn't know at that time whether his child would be a boy or a girl. But when he learned it was a daughter, both families were ecstatic. My father especially rushed in front of Uncle Quý, showing off. "So, I have a daughter, and you don't, do you?" Quý Zutong simply smiled calmly, straightened his posture, patted my father's shoulder, and replied evenly, "Mr. Lum, you seem to forget that your daughter will one day marry into my family." My face darkened instantly, his smile stiff. I only learned of this later when they reminisced about the past. Since the two families often visited each other, my mother and Aunt Chu usually looked after us together. But in the end, the task of taking care of me always fell on Quý Linh. From the moment I had memories, he was always by my side. I would constantly follow him around. When he started elementary school and had homework to do, I was still in kindergarten, completely unaware of what homework even meant, and still clinging to him. My mother tried to drag me back, afraid I was disturbing his studies, but I refused, even throwing tantrums. At those moments, Aunt Chu would always say, "It's fine, let her stay. She won't disturb him." Seeing my mother hesitate, Aunt Chu would turn to Quý Linh, who was focused on his homework. "Linh ah, what do you think?" He answered casually. Hearing his reply, both my mother and Aunt Chu breathed a relief. As we grew older, he began to find me annoying. I would widen my innocent eyes, acting spoiled, calling, "Ling gege." He always sighed helplessly, but over time he got used to my pestering. He would finish his homework quickly, then play with me for a while. Still, he was very disciplined. After playing a bit, he'd return to reading, while I, obsessed with play, always tried to skip meals. No matter how much my mother and Aunt Chu coaxed, it was useless. I would always find excuses. Until one day, Quý Linh said just one sentence. "Nhu Nhu, finish eating first, then you can play." His tone wasn't strict, but it carried a strange authority. I immediately became obedient. My mother and Aunt Chu glanced at each other, smiling meaningfully. During one meal, Aunt Chu looked at Quý Linh, who was putting vegetables into my bowl, and teased. "Nhu Nhu listens to you so well. She should be your wife in the future." Quý Linh looked up at me briefly and answered indifferently, "No need." But Aunt Chu didn't relent, still smiling. "She's still little now. It's fine if you say no. Later, if you want, that will be enough." Quý Linh stayed silent, only glancing at me, my lips greasy with oil from eating, before quietly picking up a napkin to wipe my mouth. Time flew quickly. When Quý Linh entered middle school, people used to say, boys excel in the sciences, girls excel in the humanities. It was true. Before I even finished elementary school, I was already struggling badly with history. But strangely, Quý Linh never had that problem. He excelled at everything. My mother always reminded him to tutor me. If I couldn't even handle primary school, then middle school would be impossible. Aunt Chu agreed. Every time she urged Quý Linh to come to my house to teach me, she always repeated the same sentence. Teach your future wife well. Understand? I know. At first, he wanted to refute it, but later he didn't even bother. So every day after returning home, he would come to my place, teach me, and only then go back to do his own homework. Even as a child, I already thought Quý Linh was handsome, and the older he grew, the more attractive he became. But in front of math, even a handsome face was useless. The moment he started explaining, I would get sleepy. A math book wasn't even as good as a pillow, so I would simply rest my head on his arm. Nhu Nhu. His voice was low and cold. He rarely called my full name. The moment I heard it, I sat up straight, pretending to listen seriously, grinning sheepishly as he continued the lesson. Thanks to his years of tutoring, I actually made progress. As I was preparing for the middle school entrance exam, Quý Linh was also getting ready for the high school exam. It was a crucial stage. Studies were stressful, but he still made time to help me revise. 1 week before the exam, while he was teaching me, I noticed he seemed distracted. I thought maybe he was under too much pressure. I told him, "In this last week, just stay home and rest. You don't need to come anymore." He paused, patted my head, and forced a smile. "All right, but you have to review on your own. No slacking." I beamed at him. Of course I won't slack off. I thought it was just a week. After exams, we would still see each other. Who knew? That would be the last time we met. The exam ended. The moment I got home, I didn't even wait for my mother to say anything before rushing to his house. Normally, at this hour, I wouldn't even need to knock. Aunt Chu would already have the door open, knowing I'd be there. But that day, no matter how much I knocked, no one answered. Ji Chu? Lingega? Even though Uncle Quý was rarely home, I still called out. But there was no reply. I clung to a faint hope, thinking maybe they had just gone out and hadn't returned yet. Then I realized my parents had been standing behind me the whole time. Uncle Quý moved the whole family to City A. What about Lingege? He still has to attend high school here. I heard Uncle Quý has worked there, so to make things easier, mother and son both had to move. I refused to give up. Then why didn't Lingege say anything to me? My mother patiently explained. Maybe he didn't want to make you sad. He didn't know how to tell you. When I returned home, I locked myself in my room. Tears fell uncontrollably. The person who had always been by my side since childhood had suddenly disappeared. The sense of loss and emptiness was unbearable. Back then, I was still young. I thought it was just a sister's dependence on her brother, but when I entered middle school, at the age when feelings first awaken, I realized what I felt for Quý Linh was not the same as with anyone else. 3 years passed. By now, he must have grown up. High school, those naive, youthful years, even with the heavy pressure of studies, it couldn't stop the stirrings of young hearts. When my classmates started talking about the boys they liked, and someone asked me what kind of boy I preferred, I always smiled and shook my head. I need to focus on my studies right now. But deep inside, I had long since already chosen someone. The summer after the university admission exam, I received my admission notice from University A. My parents were overjoyed. My mother immediately picked up the phone to call someone, waving her hands excitedly as she spoke. This time, I had truly surpassed expectations because I knew the university I got into was the place where he was. All the effort, all those sleepless nights, it had finally paid off. At last, I would be able to see the person I had missed day and night for so many years. But would he still remember me? And if we met again, what should I say? While I was still lost in my thoughts, my mother finished the call and pulled my father over to stand before me. She looked at me seriously. "How about our whole family moving to City A?" What? I froze, confusion written all over my face. My father spoke up as well. I agree. What's going on? I'm just going to university. Why does the whole family need to move? Dad, what about your company? Isn't this going too far? University is only 4 years. When I graduate, I'll come back anyway. There's no need to move the entire family. My mother sighed, gripped my hand. It's your first time being away from home for so long. Your father and I just can't feel at ease. I held my mother's hand back. I'm already grown up. The school has dormitories, so what's there to worry about? Seeing she was still silent, I quickly added a few more words to reassure her. Besides, Aunt Chu also lives in City A. If anything happens, I can contact her. The moment I said that, both my parents immediately stood up. So you finally said it. That's exactly what we were waiting for. Just now, Aunt Chu also discussed this with me. She suggested that you stay at their house. It's close to school and they can take care of you. That way your father and I can rest easy. I froze. So all of this was just a test. There was never any real plan to move, no real worry. It was all just to gauge my reaction. Honestly, with acting skills like this, if my biological parents don't win an Oscar someday, it would be a shame. Even though the semester hadn't started yet, exactly half a month before it began, my mother had already started packing my luggage. "Mom, what are you doing? Why are you rushing to kick me out of the house?" Without even looking up, her hands kept moving swiftly. "Go a little earlier. Get used to the place first. That way, when the semester starts, it won't be so chaotic." "Mom, I'm already 18, I said seriously. She looked at me, smiling meaningfully. "After so long apart, don't you want to see your lean gege again?" My face turned red instantly. "Mom, what are you even saying?" "You're both grown up now. It's not like when you were kids. Still, you should reconnect properly." Why hadn't I thought of that? This was truly a perfect opportunity. No one understands me better than my mom. She really was the best. I snatched the clothes out of her hands. "Leave it. I'll do it myself." Never before had I packed so quickly. Watching me, my mother leans casually against the doorframe, biting into an apple, smiling slyly. "Now you understand. There are no lazy people in this world, only people without motivation." Everything was ready. When I looked back, she was still standing there, relaxed, watching me. She had already swept away the last bit of reluctance I had about leaving home. Soon after, my parents drove me to the airport. With only a few simple reminders, they sent me off. I carried with me a mix of nervousness and excitement as I began this new journey. And before I knew it, I had arrived in City A. I glanced around and spotted Uncle Quý and Aunt Chu waiting for me at the airport gate. Waving happily, I called out to them. The moment Aunt Chu saw me, she rushed over, embracing me warmly. Finally, we get to welcome you. My dear, you've grown beautiful, already a young lady. Isn't that right, Ling? Only then did I notice Quý Linh was there too. A moment ago, overwhelmed by Aunt Chu's enthusiasm, I hadn't realized he was standing just behind Uncle Quý. Before he could say anything, Aunt Chu continued with a laugh. It's been so long since you two met, hasn't it? Yes, she answered herself. 6 whole years. Then she pulled me right in front of him. This is Nhu Nhu. Do you remember her? I lifted my head slightly and my eyes met his. I was so tense I couldn't say a word. Outwardly calm, but inside I was in complete chaos. For a second, his gaze faltered. Then the corner of his lip curved into a teasing smile. How could I forget my future wife? My cheeks burned. I felt shy, awkward. This was not the first sentence I had imagined all these years. I had rehearsed so many possibilities, but never this. Never the same ridiculous words that Aunt Chu had once joked about when we were kids. Lin Gege, don't tease me. But deep inside, I was secretly overjoyed. Aunt Chu beamed, then shoved my suitcase into Quý Ling's hands, signaling me to follow her to the car. In the back seat, Quý Linh and I sat side by side, listening as Aunt Chu eagerly recounted stories from our childhood. She was always like a little tail following after you. Whenever she got scolded, she would hide behind you for comfort. If she got into too much trouble and her mother hit her, she'd cling to you and refuse to let go. When you went to school, she even cried and refused to be apart from you. Her voice was lively, painting the past as if it were happening right before us. Without realizing, I turned my head toward Quý Linh. At the exact same moment, his eyes met mine. Then he quickly turned away. Both of us felt awkward and chose silence. After all, Aunt Chu was right. I really did cling to him the most when we were little. In the blink of an eye, you two have grown so much already, Aunt Chu sighed. Yes, we've all grown up, I whispered, though in truth I was saying it for Quý Linh to hear. The car window was slightly open. Quý Linh gazed outside, the breeze ruffling his hair. Sunlight streamed in, highlighting the soft curve of his lashes, the long, narrow eyes that shone with quiet depth. He looked even more handsome now, no trace of the childishness he once had. His features had sharpened, his demeanor steadier. He had always seemed more mature than kids his age, but now it was even more apparent. I found myself staring absent-mindedly. Then suddenly, he seemed to notice my gaze. Is there something on my face? Oh, there's something all right, an entire universe of good looks. But instead, I blurted out the oldest, most cliché excuse. No, I just thought I saw a crow flying outside. The moment the words left my mouth, I felt a pang of guilt. Even I couldn't believe my own nonsense. Panicking, I quickly turned away toward the window, avoiding his eyes. The air grew still for a few seconds. I couldn't help sneaking a glance at him again. He had returned to his calm posture, though I caught the faint curve at the corner of his lips. When I finally saw the room Aunt Chu had prepared for me, a strange warmth bloomed in my chest. Quý Linh pushed my suitcase inside. Leave your luggage here, he said casually. I snapped out of my daze, hurriedly taking the handle from him. Thanks, I muttered, a little embarrassed. The corner of his lips tugged upward. Not bad. At least you know how to be polite now. What's that supposed to mean? That I used to be a little brat? I hadn't even come up with a comeback when he added, I'm right across from you. Across? I repeated. He nodded. It was true. His family's villa had 3 floors. Uncle Quý and Aunt Chu stayed on the 2nd floor. The 3rd had 2 rooms. If I was here, then of course the room opposite was his. So close. Did this mean every morning when I opened my door, I could see him right away? The thought alone made my heart beat faster. Lin Gege, if I ever need anything, I can come to you, right? No. What? And yet, why mention being across from me at all? He was the same as before, saying no with his mouth but meaning yes inside. I ignored his refusal entirely. Thank you, Lin Gege. He let out a soft, helpless laugh, then turned and walked away. After settling in, I went downstairs for dinner. I had been starving all morning, and the sight of the table piled high with all my favorite dishes made my eyes sparkle. But determined to keep up a ladylike image, I forced myself to reach for some greens first, chewing them slowly one by one. Eat, don't be shy, have more, Aunt Chu encouraged, mistaking my restraint. She pushed a plate of meat toward me. I frantically waved my hands. No need, Auntie. Vegetables are more nutritious. I'll just eat greens. Aunt Chu blinked, then turned toward Quý Linh as if asking for help. He set his chopsticks down and spoke flatly. Grown up already, huh? Tastes have changed. From now on, 3 meals a day, only vegetables. My hand froze mid-air, chopsticks trembling. Was he serious? Only vegetables for the rest of my life? Lim Ta Nhu, you idiot. Of all things to say, you had to pick that. I quickly snatched up a sweet and sour rib and shoved it into my mouth. Wow, this is delicious. Aunt Chu, you have to teach me how to cook this. Aunt Chu laughed, pleased. Of course, of course. If you like it, I'll teach you. She happily placed more ribs into my bowl. Seeing this, Quý Linh seemed satisfied with his task accomplished and resumed eating as if nothing had happened. I had almost resigned myself to a vegetarian diet for life. I thought that living under the same roof, seeing each other every morning and night, something would naturally happen between us. But no, our daily routine was limited to a good morning, a few words during meals, maybe watching TV together if we had spare time. In the blink of an eye, it was already the first day of enrollment. Freshman students had to arrive early to complete admission procedures. Quý Linh was forced to come with me, with Aunt Chu insisting that I was hopeless with directions and he had to escort me safely. I hadn't expected to be stunned the moment we arrived. This prestigious university truly was on another level. Without a guide, I probably would have gotten lost immediately, but the scenery wasn't the real focus. What mattered was the way everyone's eyes seemed glued to him. Isn't that Senior Quý Linh? He's so tall and so handsome. Not just top of the mathematics department, he also won first prize in the National Math Olympiad. And the number of scholarships he's gotten? Countless. Finally, we get to see him in person. They say he's cold, hardly speaks. If he's not competing, he's buried in books. But who's that girl walking behind him? A freshman? I've never heard he had a younger sister. A group of girls whispered, trying hard to contain their excitement, but every word reached my ears loud and clear. So this was my welcome to college, already surrounded by rivals in love. I pouted, quickened my steps, and deliberately walked closer to him, letting out a soft humph. Quý Linh seemed to notice. What's wrong? I pretended to joke, though there was an edge to my tone. Who would have thought Linguga is this popular? If I hadn't come, I wouldn't have known. Used to it, he replied calmly. Used to it? I ground my teeth. Having so many admirers must feel great, huh? Suddenly, he flicked my forehead. Not hard, but unexpected. What are you thinking in that little head of yours? People talk every day. Am I supposed to give each one a math lecture so they'll focus on studying? I froze, caught off guard, and he added with indifference, I don't have that kind of free time. The irritation burning inside me fizzled instantly. I turned my face away, but couldn't stop the corners of my lips from curving upward. He walked me all the way to my classroom door before leaving. I picked a quiet corner seat. I hadn't even warmed the chair when a group of girls crowded around. Just now, we saw Senior walk you to class. What's your relationship with Quý Linh? We've never heard of him being close to any girl. Normally, I disliked nosy people, but this was the perfect opportunity to stake a claim. Quý Linh and I are childhood sweethearts, I declared, pausing just long enough before adding, we even have a childhood engagement. Their faces fell instantly, eyes dim with disappointment. One by one, they dispersed. I hadn't brought it up on my own. They asked, after all, and my mission was accomplished. I crossed my arms, satisfied. But no matter how much I gloated, I couldn't escape the nightmare of mathematics. Not even in college. On the very first day, the math lecture spun my brain until I was dizzy, utterly lost. And the kicker? This subject counted towards the final evaluation. If I failed, my graduation could be in jeopardy. What cursed fate tied me to math for life? Whatever, one step at a time. At last, class ended, and the most important thing after surviving math, food. Nhu Nhu, let's eat together. They say the cafeteria food here is amazing, my new deskmate chirped as soon as the bell rang. Unfortunately, I had already made other plans. Sorry, I've got an appointment today. Next time, for sure, I said with a smile and a wave. She raised an eyebrow. An appointment? Off to find your childhood sweetheart? I only arched my brow, lips sealed, but my expression said it all. Sure enough, when I entered the cafeteria, I spotted Quý Linh. I knew he'd be here. He always ate on time, 3 meals a day without fail. I grabbed 2 dishes, both meat, of course, and headed straight for the seat opposite him.
Lingege, from now on, let's eat together. You eat alone every day. It must be boring. With someone to share the meal, it'll taste better, right? I spoke as I stuffed a mouthful of rice into my mouth. Without even looking, he knew it was me. Calmly, he replied, Eat properly. Don't talk. You'll choke. Then his eyes flicked toward my tray. Not eating vegetables today? Without thinking, I blurted out, Vegetables are awful, dry, and impossible to swallow. Quý Linh said nothing. Instead, he picked up some greens from his own tray and placed them onto mine. Balanced nutrition is important. If I hadn't known his eating habits so well, I might have suspected he was simply pushing his leftovers onto me. But the truth was, he was serious. From childhood, I had always obeyed him. Even now, grown up, whenever he spoke, I felt an invisible pressure that made it hard to argue back. So, sulking, I forced the vegetables into my mouth, chewing quickly to kill the taste before swallowing. At least that way my tongue didn't register too much. And so, eating with Quý Linh became a habit I couldn't live without. Every day, if I had no classes, I'd run to the math department, sometimes bringing him milk, sometimes snacks. Of course, he never touched the snacks. Junk food is unhealthy, he always said, which meant I had to help by finishing them myself. All right, I'll admit it. I often finished class early on purpose, just so I could wait for him and walk back together. He never refused. Over time, I became familiar with his upperclassmen too. They teased me endlessly. Here again, looking for your lingege, and I'd always answer without shame. That's right. That's right. Like today, after class, I went straight to look for him so we could eat together. But his classroom was empty. A few seniors, already done eating, passed by and told me, he's probably in the research lab. There's a competition coming up. The research lab, a place reserved only for students training for the math contest.
To me, it always seemed intimidating, like a place only geniuses belonged. If not for Quý Linh, I would never have dared to step foot there. Still, the thought of him skipping a meal nagged at me. So, before heading there, I stepped by the cafeteria and bought him a sandwich. The lab was so quiet, it felt suffocating. My heart thudded as I walked inside, half excited, half nervous. My eyes scanned the room and froze. He wasn't alone. Sitting across from him was a girl with hair falling to her waist. She looked pure and gentle, every smile delicate and refined. The way she leaned in slightly when speaking, the quiet elegance in her gestures, it all stung. I clenched the sandwich tighter. I admitted it. She was beautiful. My chest tightened with sour jealousy, but I forced myself to think. It's nothing. They're just studying together. Taking a deep breath, I marched straight toward him. Without hesitation, I sat down beside him. He glanced up, and when he saw me, he shifted his seat inward, making space for me to sit more comfortably. The girl across from him frowned, clearly displeased. She said curtly, "Sorry, we're preparing for the competition. We don't have time for visitors." I ignored her completely. Instead, I held out the sandwich to him, deliberately pouting. "Ling Gege, how could you come here without telling me? I waited so long." He accepted the sandwich, pausing for a moment before saying in a low voice, "I didn't mean to. Things were rushed and I forgot." Only then did the girl realize that I wasn't just a stranger. Her lips pressed together tightly as she turned back to him. "So, who exactly is she?"
Who is she? Why have I never seen her before? Before she could even finish, I quickly cut in. I'm Nhu Nhu, Link Gege's childhood sweetheart. I deliberately emphasized the last 4 words, childhood sweetheart. I had just enrolled, so of course it was normal she hadn't heard of me. Her smile stiffened as she forced out a laugh. "Oh, so you're a new student. No wonder I've never heard about you." "I've never heard about you either," I replied, politely but firmly. Her face froze. She tried again, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Little sister, aren't you interrupting us? We're working on something important. If you distract Ling, it won't be good for the competition." "Oh, so casual, calling him Ling already. You think Quý Ling's talent can be affected by me? If anyone's getting distracted here, it's you." This was exactly the moment to counter her green tea tricks. Without hesitation, I hooked my arm through his and leaned closer. With innocent eyes, I asked, "Ling Gege, does me sitting here bother you?" The tips of his ears turned red. He coughed lightly twice. No." Triumphant, I shot the girl a smug look. She still didn't give up, though her tone grew impatient. "But with her sitting so close, doesn't it bother you?" He cut her off calmly. "I'm used to it." My heart soared. Her face, on the other hand, turned dark with frustration, an expression I couldn't help but savor. On the way home, I was silent. That girl, Do-san-san, where did she come from? How long have they known each other? Could it really be the case that a childhood sweetheart still isn't as good as some random girl appearing out of nowhere? No, I won't let that happen. The moment we stepped inside the house, I grabbed Quý Linh, pulling him down onto the sofa before he could head upstairs. "Just how close are you two?" I demanded. He blinked. "Who?" "Do-san-san," I snapped. "We're not close," he said calmly. "Not close? Then why were you two smiling so happily?" He chuckled. "Since when did you see me smile at her?" He didn't hesitate at all. His answer was too natural to be a lie. And it was true. Only Do-san-san had been smiling that entire time. But still, there were only 2 of them in that room. My voice dropped to a murmur. Patiently, he explained. "She's the daughter of my advisor. For this competition, our professor asked us to exchange ideas together."
Oh, so that's it. Relief washed over me. See? I knew it. Just study partners, nothing more. What was that you mumbled just now? He reached out and rubbed my head. Nothing. I jumped up and bolted upstairs. But my tongue betrayed me, blurting out, I just thought she might be trying to steal you from me. I froze. Did I say that out loud? Hopefully not. Surely he didn't hear. You're worried I'll be stolen away? Oh no, he did hear. No, I was saying, uh, wow, the stars are really bright tonight. He raised his brow. We're indoors. I looked away, pretending to study the ceiling, anything to dodge his gaze. He lowered his head, chuckling helplessly, and brushed past me, his voice low and reassuring. Relax, I'm not that easy to steal. In the days that followed, Quý Linh was almost always in the research lab, busy preparing for the contest. Ever since the Tosan-san incident, I often stayed late with him, but she had no more excuses to complain. Finally, the competition ended, and as expected, he took first place. That afternoon, after class ended, I automatically rushed out to find him, eager to walk home together. But before I could even step out of my seat, my desk mate grabbed my arm. Hey, don't leave yet. Tonight the upperclassmen are holding a welcome mixer. Are you coming? No, I replied flatly. Not interested. She tugged at me again. Don't reject it so quickly. It's the freshman welcome party. Everyone's going. Think of it as a chance to meet people. Sounds more like a dating event than a welcome party. Well, yeah, but still, it'll be fun. I'm not going. I already have someone I like. Her eyes sparkled mischievously. You mean Quý Linh, right? I knew it. I glared at her, preparing to leave. Wait. At least help me out. The rule is everyone has to bring a partner. Otherwise, you get penalized 3 drinks minimum. Just come with me, please. 3 drinks? That's it? Then drink them yourself. Come on, just once, please. I sighed, torn. Ugh, what do I do now? But when I saw the expectant look on her face, I just couldn't bring myself to refuse. After all, since the start of the semester, she'd been helping me with notes, even covering for me whenever I was late. I hesitated for a bit. She grew anxious and pleaded, You just need to sit there. You don't even have to say anything. Just count as one more person, and then you can leave right after, okay? I was doubtful. Really? Really, I promise. Fine, I reluctantly agreed. Now the real problem was, how do I tell Quý Linh that I'll be home late tonight? Honestly, if I told the truth, there was no way he'd let me go. And if I lied, and he somehow found out I went to a mixer, he might actually kill me. Just the thought made me shiver. I had to come up with a reasonable excuse. On the way, I kept rehearsing in my head, gathering little bits of courage, but when I finally saw Quý Linh, my eyes instantly dodged his. I waited until he was packing up his things before I carefully spoke, my voice soft. Lingege? What is it? He set his books down and looked at me. Why are you staring at me like that? My guilt spiked. Oh, it's nothing. No, I have to say it now. If I wait, I won't have the chance later. I took a deep breath and blurted, I have something to. We both spoke at the same time. You go first. No, you go first. Fine, you go first. He looked at me steadily. Tonight, I have a group meeting. You will probably need to head home by yourself. Is that all right? If not, I can reschedule. Before he could finish, I jumped in. No, it's fine. I'm grown up now. I can go home by myself. Totally fine. Perfect. I don't even have to lie anymore. I can go without worrying about him finding out. You're sure? He asked again. Of course. I tugged on his sleeve and grinned. Don't worry about me.
He seemed to recall something, then asked, "Right, you were about to say something just now. What was it?" Nothing. Not important." I waved my hands, flustered. "All right, just make sure to text me once you get home." "Got it." I gave him an exaggerated okay sign. To avoid being caught, I waited a while after he left before heading out. On the way to the bar, I messaged him, "I'm home safe." He replied almost instantly, "Okay." When I arrived, the place was already crowded. Boys and girls sat facing each other. The purpose was obvious. I wanted to quietly sit in some corner where no one would notice me, but my desk mate eagerly pulled me into the center and plopped me right down beside her. Just like that, I became the one sitting right in the spotlight. Great, this is bad. Soon, the games began. I played along just enough not to stand out. Then came the introductions. One by one, people introduced themselves to get to know each other. I was planning to excuse myself and sneak off to the restroom when suddenly a senior stood up, eyes fixed on me. "You're Nhu Nhu, right?" I froze, then nodded slightly. He smiled. "Our whole dorm's heard about you. Word is, among the freshmen, there's this really pretty girl. Today, I finally get to meet you, and the rumors were true." I forced a polite smile, but inside I was uncomfortable. I hoped he'd stop there. But no. Out of nowhere, he picked up a glass of fruit wine and walked straight toward me. "Junior, let me offer you a drink, just as a greeting." "Sorry." I instinctively stepped back and raised the cup of water in my hand. He didn't back off. "It's fine, just one fruit wine. Don't you tell me I won't give me even that much face?" Annoyance bubbled up inside me. "I really don't drink." "Come on, just a sip. Don't be so stubborn." He leaned closer, still pressing. That was it. My patience snapped. I stood up, ready to snatch the glass from his hand. But before I could move, a shadow flashed in front of me. Someone grabbed his wrist, tore the glass from his hand, and splashed the wine across his face in one swift motion. Then, calmly, they set the glass down on the table. "Sorry." Your hand slipped. When someone says they don't want to drink, forcing them isn't fun, don't you think? Even without seeing his face, there was no mistaking that voice. It was Quý Linh.
That voice, others around us started whispering too, calling his name. "Quý Linh." I knew I wasn't mistaken. Oh no, why on earth is he here? From the very beginning, I'd had this chill down my spine, a bad omen, and sure enough, it came true. I immediately lowered my head, letting my hair fall to cover my face, trying desperately to slip out behind him. Don't see me, please don't see me." I muttered to myself as I carefully edged toward the back. "Nhu Nhu?" Finished. Exactly what I feared most, called by my full name. My shoulders stiffened instantly. At this point, even if I'd cried, it was too late. I had no choice but to obediently turn around to face him. Still planning to run? Quý Ling's brows furrowed, his voice colder than before. I froze like a statue, not daring to move, letting him pull me out of that place. The autumn night air had already settled in, the wind carried a hint of chill. I trailed behind him like a child who had just made a huge mistake. He said nothing. Is he really angry? He must be. Look at his face. Definitely angry. But fine, be angry. Just don't ignore me afterward, okay? Explain. His sudden voice made me jump. Explain what? I stammered, eyes down, not realizing he had stopped walking. Bam! I smacked right into his back. He sighed softly, turned, and fixed me with that same cold tone. "So this is what you call going home? Telling me I'm home when really you're at a mixer?" Panic rushed over me. I waved my hands frantically. No, it's not what you think. I didn't even want to go. I only went because my desk mate needed one more person. That's all, nothing else. She's always helped me, so I felt like I had to return the favor. But he didn't look convinced. I grew more anxious, my words tumbling faster. And I made it clear I already said I have someone I like. I was planned to just sit for a bit then leave. I never thought you'd suddenly appear. I bit my tongue before I said too much. If I kept talking, all my thoughts would spill out. I stole a glance at him, dodging his eyes. Quý Ling's steps faltered slightly. The person you like already revealed. My heart clenched. At this point, hiding was pointless. I stepped closer, looked at him seriously, and admitted, "That's right. The person I like is you." We locked eyes for a long time. For once, he looked stunned. Honestly, it was the first time I ever seen him at a loss like that, and it was kind of adorable. I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect him to answer right away. Just knowing he finally understood my feelings, that was enough for now. A step forward. But wait, wasn't this supposed to be about me explaining myself? How did it suddenly turn into a confession? Oh well, the important thing was making sure he wasn't angry anymore. Just as he opened his mouth, I quickly tugged on his sleeve and blurted out my apology. "Lingega, I know I was wrong. I won't do it again." He seemed to snap back from his daze. "There won't be a next time." I nodded eagerly. "No next time, promise." I smiled up at him, contrite. His expression finally softened, his voice gentler. Let's go home." Relief washed over me. He must not be angry anymore, right? I happily trailed after him. When we got home, Uncle Quý and Aunt Chu had already gone to bed, but the light in the living room was still left on for us. I tiptoed toward the stairs, ready to sneak back to my room. But suddenly, weight on my back. A chin resting lightly on my shoulder, warm breath brushing against my ear. I froze on the spot. Turning my head slightly, I whispered, "Lingege?" I leaned in and sniffed. Was that alcohol? Wait a second. Didn't he just protect me from drinking earlier? At the time, he seemed completely sober. I hadn't realized it at all. He must have been holding himself together the entire way home. With all my strength, I dragged Quý Linh back to his room. For someone who looked so lean, he was unbelievably heavy. Stumbling, I ended up tossing him straight onto the bed. He frowned slightly but didn't move. Panicking, I rushed to check on him. Sorry, I didn't mean it." I leaned in closer, waving my hand in front of his face. No reaction. That's when a bold thought crept in. I edged even nearer, close enough to feel his breath against my skin. My fingers traced lightly across his brows, his eyes, his nose, his lips, then down to his Adam's apple. "Why are his eyelashes so long?" I murmured. "Even asleep, he's this handsome." A laugh escaped me. But then another thought struck. If I was already acting like some shameless fangirl, maybe stealing a tiny kiss while he was unaware wouldn't be too outrageous. My palms were sweaty, my heart hammering. After hesitating for what felt like forever, I finally took a deep breath, squeezed my eyes shut, and pressed a quick kiss to the corner of his lips. Immediately, I sprang up, clutching my burning face in both hands. My heart thumped wildly. Nope, can't stay here, must run now. But just as I turned to flee, a hand clamped tightly around my wrist. I lost my balance and fell back onto the bed. Before I could react, Quý Linh rolled over, pinning me beneath him. My eyes locked with his, hazy yet fathomless. I swallowed hard. Lingege, you're awake? His voice was low, almost a whisper. Kiss me and run? What if I hadn't woken up? Would you deny it tomorrow? Was he really drunk or perfectly sober? My face burned with embarrassment. I could only shut my eyes tight, turning my head to the side to avoid him. But then, warm breath swept across my ear. His lips brushed my earlobe, soft and teasing. Nhu Nhu, I've been waiting for you to grow up. Then his lips moved slowly downward. His breathing grew heavier, laced with restraint, as he trailed kisses along my neck, lingering until he found a spot to suck lightly. I clutched at his sleeve, my entire body tingling. The nervousness from earlier was instantly drowned in a wave of heat, leaving me weak, powerless. Every motion was unhurried, giving me time to adjust, to accept. Just when I thought tonight something inevitable would happen, this man fell asleep. Wait, what? No, I wasn't mistaken. He was asleep. He'd stayed awake all this time just to steal one kiss from me, and then passed out? Lingege, Quý Linh, wake up! But morning came anyway. Half awake, I heard Aunt Chu pounding on the door, her voice frantic. Quý Linh, something's wrong. I can't find Nhu Nhu anywhere. Before she finished, she barged into the room and froze. Her eyes landed on me and Quý Linh, still in his bed. The three of us stared at each other. Then, together, all eyes dropped to my neck. Only then did I realize that, too late, the marks he'd left were clearly visible. I clapped my hand over them, but it was useless. Aunt Chu's expression darkened as she glared at him. Quý Linh, out here, now. It looked as if something serious had happened between us, even though, in truth, nothing had. Mortified, I hurried to fix myself up, trying to convince myself, forget it, just let it pass. As I went downstairs for breakfast, passing by the second floor, I heard voices from inside Aunt Chu's room. I froze, instinctively stepping back. Curiosity got the better of me. Pressing close to the wall, I strained to listen. Are you serious? It was Aunt Chu's voice, rarely ever this grave.
I heard Aunt Chu ask him seriously. He paused for a moment, then chuckled softly. Hasn't Mother already treated her as your daughter-in-law? That's true, Aunt Chu admitted. I've already set my heart on it. But what about you? If you don't like her, then it doesn't matter how much I approve. I just don't want Nhu Nhu to be wronged. I almost burst out laughing. Wronged? Me? Wronged where? Just last night I stole a kiss from him. How could that be considered being wronged? Before I could even enjoy the thought, Quý Linh voice rang out. Who said I don't like her? Aunt Chu froze for a moment. Then her eyes lit up. You mean truly? Yes, he said firmly, locking eyes with her. Don't worry, Mother. She's your daughter-in-law, and no one can take her away. I'm serious. Aunt Chu's face broke into a radiant smile, satisfied at last, before she left the room. Meanwhile, I was still frozen in place, my heart suddenly pounding with excitement. On the drive back to campus, the car was strangely silent. From time to time, Quý Linh would sneak a glance at me. I knew he was watching, but I was terrified he might bring up what happened last night, the kiss I stole. What if he wanted to settle the score with me? So I pretended to stay calm, as if nothing had happened. At last he spoke. About last night. Sorry. I blinked. Huh? Oh, that? It's fine. You were drunk. I don't blame you." His reply was quiet, so soft it was drowned out by the music in the car. I didn't quite catch it. Scratching my head, I decided not to ask again. As long as he didn't mention my stolen kiss, that was already good enough. The car stopped in front of the school gate. Just as I was about to step out, Quý Linh suddenly called me back. He took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. "Wear it. It's chilly." It wasn't exactly cold yet, but with winter coming, the air had grown brisk. I obediently slipped on his coat. It was huge, wrapping around me completely, warm and comforting. Only then did I realize the collar also perfectly covered the marks on my neck. This sly man. But peace never lasted long. Not even a few days back at school, and she appeared again. To Sansan. Hadn't the competition already ended? Why was she still lingering like a ghost? I was about to find Quý Linh for lunch when she suddenly blocked my path, clearly on purpose. "Let's talk," she demanded, her arrogant gaze the same as ever. Arms crossed, I sighed impatiently. "Are we even close? I don't think we have anything to talk about." Honestly, I was too lazy to argue with her. And besides, I was starving, hardly in the mood to waste time. I brushed past, but her sharp voice rang out behind me. "Quý Linh will never like you. Stop clinging to him." That made me laugh out loud. "Excuse me? Whether Quý Linh likes me or not, what does that have to do with you? If I stopped seeing him, do you think he would suddenly like you instead?" My glare left her flustered, but she still refused to back down. "You're so naive. He and I are the same kind of people. I can help him. What can you offer? Don't fool yourself. He's only toying with you." I stared at her, dumbfounded. Toying with me? Her words weren't even sharp, but they grated horribly against my ears. My anger boiled over, and I shot her a deadly glare. She faltered, actually taking a step back. Then she raised her hand as if to push me. With my reflexes, avoiding her would have been easy. But then I saw Quý Linh approaching from afar. So instead, I let myself fall. Thud. "Ow, that really hurt," I whispered dramatically, forcing a pained expression. Quý Ling's steps instantly quickened, his face darkening. In the next second, he seized To Sansan's wrist and flung it aside. "You've gone too far." Tears welled in my eyes as I whimpered, "Lingaga, I don't even know what I did wrong. She just keeps bullying me." Panicked, To Sansan rushed to explain. No, it's not like that. She fell by herself." But then I felt weightless. Quý Linh had scooped me up into his arms, his eyes cold and filled with disgust, fixed on her. "Who do you think you are? Nhu Nhu is my fiancé. You have no right to decide anything." Before leaving, he coldly left behind a single sentence. "The only one I like is her, and it will always be her." Being carried in Quý Lin's arms all the way home was more than a little embarrassing. I kept insisting that I was fine, but he stubbornly requested leave on my behalf and brought me back anyway. Thanks to To Sansan, I even missed out on my sweet and sour ribs at the cafeteria today. Once home, he gently placed me on the sofa and told me to rest, then turned into the kitchen. I lowered my head, and right on cue, my stomach growled. I wasn't even hurt to begin with, so how could I just sit still? Quietly, I tiptoed into the kitchen. There he was, back facing me, cooking at the stove, sweet and sour ribs, my favorite dish. A man who can cook really is dangerously attractive. How was I supposed to resist? Slowly, I crept closer and slipped my arms around his waist from behind, pressing against him. The warmth,
the security, it was overwhelming. Quý stiffened slightly, his hands pausing mid-motion. "Why aren't you resting? Are you really okay?" I panicked, quickly letting go with a nervous laugh. "I'm fine. Do I look like I'd be hurt by her? She doesn't even have that much strength." He narrowed his eyes at me. Cut. Knowing I couldn't hide it any longer, I confessed honestly. "All right, fine, I did it on purpose. She dared to say you didn't like me, that you thought I was childish." Without warning, Quý lifted me up and sat me on the counter, my legs instinctively wrapped around his waist. This position was way too intimate. "So you believed her?" "Not at all." I shook my head immediately. I found her annoying, that's all." An idea flashed through my mind. Slowly, I wrapped my arms around his neck, my eyes shimmering as I leaned closer. "So, Lingege, just admit it. You do like me, don't you?" His arms tightened around my waist. He stared straight into my eyes, no hesitation at all. I admit it." And then his lips came down on mine, warm and insistent. His tongue slipped past my teeth, pulling me into a deep, possessive kiss, as if all the restraint he'd kept bottled up for years was exploding in this single moment. My whole body went weak, my mind spinning. Instinctively, I kissed him back. I don't know how long it lasted. By the time he finally let me go, I was breathless, trembling. His low voice carried a hint of laughter. "This makes twice now we've kissed." My dazed mind jolted awake. Twice! He remembered the stolen kiss I gave him. Mortified, I buried my burning face into his neck. He chuckled softly, his eyes brimming with tenderness. Then, without warning, he scooped me up like a koala and carried me straight toward the bedroom. "Hey, I haven't eaten yet," I squirmed, but his hold was ironclad. "You'll eat later." He leaned down and kissed me again. Goodbye, sweet and sour ribs. From that day forward, Quý and I were officially together. Uncle Quý and Aunt Chu looked at us with knowing smiles, their eyes full of satisfaction. Raising a wife since childhood, clearly it was the most fitting outcome. When winter break came, we went home together. Not long after, Uncle and Aunt arrived too, insisting that both families should celebrate New Year's together. My parents were ecstatic when they learned we were in a relationship. They kept saying, "Our family's blessings don't flow outside," and "two childhood friends marrying each other is perfect." They repeated it endlessly, barely letting us breathe. They even pulled Quý aside, reminding him that I was stubborn and spoiled, asking him to be patient and take good care of me. But Quý only replied calmly, "She's been spoiled by me since childhood. I raised her myself. I know her best." After graduation, he started a small company of his own. He could have slept in every morning, but instead, he always woke up an hour early just to drive me to class and made sure I ate breakfast properly. He promised me, "Once you graduate, we'll get married right away." And he kept that promise. Just a week before my graduation, he started acting strange. Sure enough, right after the ceremony, bouquet in hand, he stood waiting for me. I knew instantly he was about to propose. Even though I had already guessed, I still burst into tears, loud, ugly sobs. I even suspected he chose a crowded place on purpose so I wouldn't dare refuse. The wedding went smoothly. I thought I'd cry so much my makeup would be ruined, but surprisingly, the one who shed tears was Quý. For the first time ever, I saw his eyes red as he read his vows. When he finished, he held me tight, refusing to let go. The only hiccup came after the banquet. My mother told me that from now on, I belonged to my husband's household. I clung to her, crying, unwilling to part. But Quý only said, "The houses are right next door. 2 minutes walk." trust him to ruin the atmosphere with the one sentence. That night, our wedding night, we changed into pajamas and slipped under the blankets. In his arms, I leaned against his shoulder as we re-watched our wedding vlog. Suddenly, everything felt surreal. Time had flown so fast. Looking at the man beside me, I was overwhelmed with happiness. His gaze was soft, tender. Then he leaned close, whispering in my ear, "I love you." I didn't answer with words. Instead, I kissed him, only to be pulled deeper into his arms, into a passionate kiss that left me breathless. His hands caressed my waist, sliding lower as our clothes fell piece by piece to the floor. Fingers interlocked, gripping tight, as if we wanted to fuse into one. His eyes overflowed with love and longing, and I felt only joy and fulfillment. When it was over, we held each other close, listening to the rhythm of our hearts and breaths. In that moment, the world itself felt beautiful, as though we were the happiest two people alive.